Hey guys. Oh god, my voice. Hey guys, so I'm currently in the car because I don't drive. Jay has to drive me to work normally, and we actually work really close to each other. So it works out pretty nicely, but they have a shift starting a few hours before mine, so I'm just kind of chilling until I have work. So I thought I'd talk to you guys and just kind of explain what's been going on. So So I believe that I have ehlers-danlos syndrome, which I've first heard about when my friend who is pre-med brought it up to me out of concern about a year and a half ago, I believe. We were co-workers and we both had a lot of health problems, and she had a lot of her diagnoses, but I did not. I was always searching for them and just didn't really know what was going on. And I feel like doctors a lot of the time like to blame everything on anxiety or your weight or things like that. And because of my anxiety, I was gaining a lot of weight because I didn't realize I was overeating so much. And until that got treated, I really was struggling with my weight for a while because of that. And so when you're complaining about joint pain and you're a little heavier, most doctors are just going to blame your weight and be like, oh, well, diet. I have a history of anorexia. Diets aren't great for me. Also, just because I have joint pain doesn't mean that that is the only factor, that my weight is the only reason for that. And there's just so many different issues with doctors not really fully listening to their patients and really understanding. Wow, I folded my eyebrows way thicker than I should have today. We love doing your makeup in the car. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Yeah, so a little bit about that disorder is that there's a lot of different types of it, but some of the main symptoms are hyperflexible joints, so you get dislocations and subluxations, which are basically between how your body is supposed to be and a dislocation, so it's like a slight dislocation, and you get those very often, basically constantly. So it's a lot to deal with. You are in pain a lot, and it's hard to really explain that to a doctor because doctors, they like to use a scale from 1 to 10 about how much pain you're in. But when you've been in pain your whole life, on a good day, my pain, I'll say, is like a 3. But my 3 could be a 10 to someone that's perfectly healthy, that doesn't deal with the chronic pain that I deal with. And so that scale is kind of arbitrary, and it's hard to really get a doctor to understand that and get a doctor to understand what you're dealing with. Another symptom of it is very sensitive skin. As you can see, I'm very pale. I get burnt very easily. My skin's always been very sensitive to chemicals, to citrus, to the sun. I get sun poisoning easily. I have to wear sunscreen all the time. I'm wearing some right now. And I'm not even going outside today. I'm going to work. I'm just walking outside for a few minutes to get there. And I still have to wear it unless I risk getting a sunburn. And that's just how it's always been for me and for a lot of people in my family, actually. And yeah. And you also have on top of having very sensitive skin, you have very thin skin. So your tissue is a little thinner, so you get bruises, scrapes, things like that very easily. I'm always covered in bruises. My cats will easily scratch me just by barely walking on me. I'll get bruises by barely touching like the end of a table. I'll get cuts just by barely touching a knife while I'm doing dishes, or barely touching the side of a can that I'm opening. Just things that are not normal, that could easily hurt you, but would really only hurt you if you're really messing up and not just slightly touching it, if that makes sense. And another concern with that is that your skin's also very flexible. For me, I really don't have this symptom as much as a lot of people do. Like, there's still some flexibility, but I don't know. When you see pictures of EDS, I don't really have that symptom. I do have the rest of the skin symptoms. And then the other thing is the other symptoms are gastrointestinal problems, which I've always had. Just kind of weird mutations and different issues with that. I was born with a kidney mutation. I was born with my lungs not working at full capacity. I was born with a lot of just issues. I couldn't breathe properly. I had to be kept in the hospital for a very long time. And I was a preemie. I am a triplet, so that's very common with triplets and preemies, but it was a lot longer than it typically would have been. So basically from the start, I always had health issues. I've had 3 kidney surgeries. When I had mono, I pretty much almost died because a lot of people didn't think I had mono until it got very serious, but I was always in so much pain because my spleen was basically about to rupture, and I couldn't leave bed a lot of the time, and I had mono a lot longer than most people typically do. Normally when you get that, you're sick for about a month. I was sick and had symptoms to the point where I really couldn't go out or do anything. I had to call off work. I had to basically quit the job I had that summer. And that went on for about 3 months with side effects after. And that's not even half of it. When my anxiety gets so bad, like obviously you can have panic attacks. And chest pains are very common with panic attacks, but my chest pains would get to the point where I would be in so much pain from that on top of everything else that I would collapse or faint, which is a lot. And that can happen because of anxiety, but it happened very often whether I was feeling anxious or not, just because of the extra stress that I have. Because for some types of ehlers-danlos syndrome or EDS, specifically the vascular type, which is the type that I believe I have, which I might not, but that's where I am right now. That's what I believe I have. So the vascular form of EDS is very uncommon. The only way for you to get it is for both of your parents to pass on a gene to you. It's a genetic disorder. So the reason why I believe I have that specific type is because obviously the symptoms I have, but also because of my family having very similar symptoms on both sides of my family. And a lot of their symptoms are a little less severe. I believe that they have less severe types. So it's possible that I have something that's less severe than that, but I do believe it's some type of EDS because my symptoms just match up with that, specifically with the vascular one, because I've had health problems for my whole life, and I've always had issues with different changes. My body's always been very sensitive to change and very sensitive to exercise and very sensitive to working full-time jobs and different things of that type. And this is something I've tried to deal with for a long time, and I think my anxiety disorder honestly made me believe that the symptoms were all in my head and believe that my symptoms were not as valid or as present as they really are. And so once I got that treated, it was a lot more clear to me that something's wrong and that I need to take the time to deal with that, and I need to spend the money to deal with that and get tested for it, get follow-up appointments on that to just see how my body's doing in general. And yeah, so I started kind of trying to figure all this out in August of 2018. So it is now the end of June of 2019. So I've been dealing with this for almost a year, where I've really been trying to get a diagnosis and really been trying to listen to my body and do what is best for me and do what I need to do and have an open dialogue with my doctor. And from the start, she really didn't know a lot about this disorder. It's a very rare disorder, which honestly is a misconception because research shows that it's not as rare as a lot of doctors and a lot of people believe. It's just very underdiagnosed because the symptoms are so vastly different and can be caused by so many different things that it's very hard to diagnose. And I understand that, and I knew that getting a diagnosis for this would be very difficult and would take a lot of time. And so I had to prepare myself emotionally for that. But it's almost been a year. So I'm getting kind of tired of this. I'm getting kind of tired of having to explain myself every single time I see a doctor and show that I'm not just crazy and show that this is something that I'm really feeling and that they'll never understand how much pain I'm in every day. They'll never understand how bad my symptoms get because they don't have this disorder. They don't feel what I'm feeling. No matter how hard they can learn about it, no matter how much research they can do on it, they will not fully understand. And I think that's why it's so hard to get diagnosed with certain disabilities, especially invisible disabilities, because unless you have it, it's very hard to really understand what that patient's feeling and what that patient's dealing with and how incredibly hard it is to deal with those symptoms and to try to live a normal life with those symptoms and issues. So recently I got fed up. I contacted my doctor through my chart, which is a little app to set up appointments and deal with follow-ups. And I know that you're not supposed to send long messages in this app. I know that. That's not what the app is intended for. But every time I see my doctor, she diminishes all of my symptoms. She glosses over them and is like, oh, well, anxiety, fibromyalgia, which I have both of those. And she tries to blame those disorders on my joints dislocating and on my stomach issues and on all of these concerns that I have. Like, I can't, on a good day, I'll be able to go on a walk or maybe be able to sprint a little bit and I'll still be in pain. But honestly, when you're in as much pain as I am on a daily basis, you kind of get numb to it for a while, unless a new injury occurs, because that's your norm. That's kind of like your starting point of the day, is already being in pain. So sometimes I'll be able to exercise a little bit when I feel up for it. Not for very long, but just kind of in little spurts. And I'll need to take a lot of breaks to be able to deal with that. But when I do that, my symptoms will just get worse. I have to be very careful to not injure myself when I exercise. I have to be very careful to not overdo it because my stomach is very sensitive. So I've literally had issues where I'll decide that it's my day off and I want to go on a walk. I want to go run some errands. And just between the heat and between the pain I'm in and with my stomach issues and those symptoms as well, I'll end up puking on the side of the road while onlookers watch me, just very confused and scared for my safety. And I have to be like, this is normal. This is just what I have to deal with. Like, this is my life. Please do not be concerned. I'm not sick. Not in that way, at least. Not in the way that they believe. And, like, I don't have a stomach bug. Like, this is my norm, if that makes sense. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that help this. I do a lot of yoga. I take CBD. I use CBD topical balms and such. I take different supplements. I've switched to a healthier diet. And I feel like I'm doing everything I can, and it's really at the point where my doctor just needs to listen to me. So I sent her 2 long messages, which I shouldn't have done, but I'm getting desperate, and so I did. Just explaining all of my symptoms, explaining how serious all of my symptoms have gotten, explaining what I deal with on a daily basis. And, oh god, this is like not focused. And she recently responded by basically saying, this is not how you use the app, which is valid. It's not. That's not how you should use my chart. So I understand that, and that's valid. And then she said, well, if this is so serious, you should come in. What have I been doing since August? Going in and trying to explain my symptoms. All I wanted to do was to get a diagnosis, to figure out what's happening and treat my body with respect and treat my body with like the time and effort it needs to stay healthy. And she is making that very difficult. And a lot of people have told me to get a new doctor, but I don't want to just throw away all the progress I've made. And honestly, like, maybe there isn't much progress. Maybe I'm just delusional and I just don't want to start over because that's scary too. But a lot of people with disabilities have to. They have to see more than one doctor. They have to see a lot of doctors. And I have seen a lot of doctors. And I've always had issues with people just blaming my weight, even though I'm really not that overweight. Like, I am currently about 5 feet tall and about 160 pounds, which is what I believe is a pretty healthy weight for someone that is very active, because I work a full-time job at a store. I work in customer service, so I'm on my feet a lot. And I like living an active lifestyle, and I try to do everything that I can to keep doing that despite my symptoms, and to stay as healthy as I can, especially because that does help my symptoms at the end of the day in the long run. But it feels shitty to reach out to someone that's supposed to help you, to list off all of the reasons why you believe that you have this, all of the issues that you've had in your life, all of the surgeries you've had, all of the hospital trips, all of the ER trips, all of the urgent care trips, all of the like months where you were just in so much pain and so broke that you couldn't go to work and didn't have money to see a doctor. To deal with all of that and to be doing your best and be doing all that you can do to be healthy and treat your body well and still have issues, and to just have your doctor ignore that and act like you are a waste of her time. It sucks. And I'm not the only person that has dealt with this. I am not going to be the last person that has dealt with this. She is not the only doctor that has done this. Almost every doctor has done this to people that are disabled, to people who are just looking for help and just looking for a diagnosis. And that's why I wanted to make this video, to just let anyone know who has dealt with this or who has had a doctor doubt what they are feeling, or has had family members or coworkers or strangers doubt that you have for real health issues, and to be frustrated with the fact like, oh, well, I've had people tell me, I've had friends tell me, oh, well, if something's wrong, go to the doctor. You need to get a diagnosis. You're being selfish for not getting a diagnosis. I have been trying to get a diagnosis for over a year. I have been dealing with these problems my whole life. I have been seen by many doctors in many different states. I have been seen by many hospitals. I have been seen by many urgent cares. I have talked to homeopathic doctors. I have talked to people that are trained to treat people with homeopathic solutions. I have talked to my friends who are pre-med. I have talked to my friends who are doctors. I have talked to my friends who are studying to be psychologists. I have talked to everyone. I've done my own research for years about what is wrong with me. I have done everything that I can do. I have turned my whole life around to better suit my body and my symptoms and help treat them. And I am not the only one who has done this to no avail. I am not the only one who has put in this much effort for their doctors and the medical community to act like it's not enough, and to act like you are not doing enough, and to act like nothing is wrong and it's not a big concern, and oh, you can't be in that much pain, and oh, like it can't be that bad. You do not have my body. You do not have my symptoms. You do not know what I am dealing with. And for anyone who is in the same shoes as me, or who has been, or who will be, you're not alone. And it sucks. And something really needs to change. These doctors, these medical professionals need to be trained properly. And there are a lot of people that are. But the majority of doctors in the world today are not. The majority of medical professionals will doubt your symptoms. The majority will not understand that it's not all caused by your anxiety, because that is just one part of the problem. And it can feel lonely. And it's hard. And it's important to find people who really care about you, and that's a hard process because you're gonna have to cut off a lot of people. You're gonna have to cut off people that you thought would be there for you for the rest of your life. But that's what you have to do. You have to find the people that are going to be there for you, that are going to support you. Other people with disabilities, you're going to find people with the same problems as you, with the same disorders, whether they're diagnosed yet or not. You're going to find people in your community that really care about you and that really want the best for you and will do whatever they can to help you. So I hope you guys enjoyed our little chat. I know that got pretty real towards the end. I post every Sunday and Wednesday, and if you'd like to see more content, then please hit subscribe. Bye guys, see you later.